Hey guys, sorry for the late start. We've got a lot of people here, so hang tight and we'll invite some people up. All right, it is Wednesday, October 26th, and we're just kicking off. Pre-market's looking a little red. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing great, opinion. I have a play.
I'm so excited.
If we saw how bad Alphabet reacted to earnings, how bad can Meta get? Like, potentially, hypothetically, how bad could it get?
Minus 10%, easy.
I'm going to break from my bearish tradition on Meta and suggest that any downside on the stock may be an overreaction to its peer companies.
And just like that, all questions about Meta were silenced.
I don't know.
No, I still think there's no way. I mean, you had Microsoft's earnings, so I called on Microsoft yesterday, and I got my ass handed to me gracefully. But they beat EPS, they beat revenue, but their forecasts or their future projections, especially for their cloud revenue, seem to be slowing down, right? Which is kind of an overarching theme in yesterday's post-market, we'll say tumble. So as much as I want to believe, as much as I want to believe
overnight on Microsoft.
Yeah, as much as I want to believe Hardy, I'm finding a lack of trust in throwing calls on pretty much anything right now.
Well, you understand my thesis, Fish, right?
So the delta play makes sense. Like, I understand Meta is incredibly oversold. I mean, just look at it from its yearly highs or the last 52-week highs. Yeah, of course, I completely understand where Hardy's coming from. That delta 30 play is reasonable. It's a good bet. It's just, how scared are people at this point, considering how bad Google and even Microsoft, with beating on both ends of the top and bottom, still ended up going out 6%, pre-market today. Like, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I think people are getting more and more scared, and if the FANG companies are dropping, like the way they are, I can't imagine Meta being impervious to any of that pain. Are they still oversold? Absolutely. Is it the time to buy calls today? I mean, it depends on how much you love yourself and how many horseshoes you have up your ass.
For anyone who followed me on the Microsoft November 18 240 puts, now would be a good time to look at exiting on a double if you haven't already.
Sound advice as usual.
Comment plays real quick. Okay, Strawberry 6501 Wall Street, but 164K in SPY puts, suggesting SPY calls. Chiwei 1984 says Apple and Baba. Heavyhead 808 says SQQQ. Acrobatic Algae 5615 says what about Lucid? And just check out Hardy's Gamma Max Cross and Delta Neutral plays.
All right, Mast, what do you have to say about Lucid?
Nothing other than what I have been saying. They've been increasing production value, or the production of their vehicles as of late. They recently, in Q3, produced over 2,000 vehicles, which is a significant increase from Q1, which was like 400 or some bullshit like that. But I digress. They're making progress, and that's why they went up yesterday. They also announced the Air Touring Edition, which is going to be their quote-unquote third car. And to be honest, it's really starting to look like a value play now. So I was right. I hate to say it, but I was kind of right.
So granted, you're all right that they're building a lot more cars than they were before, but 2,000 for an automotive manufacturer still seems kind of low.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's still insignificant of an amount, but they're still building. So as soon as they're done, like they're definitely going to be in a serious position of power. So it all depends on when they finally finish everything that they promised. So as soon as they start producing gravities, hopefully by maybe Q2, Q3 of next year, then it's over. The game's over, guys.
What do you think it's going to take for them to be able to really ramp up production to a more sustainable, I guess, profitable level?
Well, obviously, it's going to take them, building more of their facilities, which is what they're currently trying to do. So that's what the loan, the syndicate of bank loan was for. That 1.5 billion is in case they burn their cash too fast doing this. So if they do take out that loan, then obviously that's going to significantly add on to their debt, but they're going to be able to have money to take care of the things that they need to take care of. So that's a good thing for them. And I'm really glad that people are starting to see all these bullish signals that have been placed in front of them for a very long time. So I'm really bullish on Lucid.
All right, thank you as always. Does anyone here have any bearish sentiment or bearish cases for Lucid?
Who will buy the cars? If
These
unemployment
interest
goes up
rates?
if unemployment goes up the way the Fed wants, the implication being fewer people will have the excess money to afford that kind of car. So in order to hit the sales projections, you would need more than the top 1% of people with disposable income to buy. And that's assuming they're willing to. Keep in mind, car cycle is now what? Average car ownership is 7 years, give or take. Or by the time a car is 7 years old, it will have had only 2 owners.
Well, Hardy, there's a
Prior,
lot of loans that are 7 years now, so cars are lasting longer than that.
correct.
And
But
also, Hardy, you got to think as soon as Q2, Q3 comes around and Lucid drops that $50,000 vehicle, people will be able to afford that because most people are out there buying like $30,000, $40,000 vehicles if they're brand new. And if they want to spend that extra 10,000 to get something that's electric instead, that's on them, obviously, spending the extra money. But, it's to do what they think they want to do. So in all honesty, I think it can happen. I think the transition can happen. People just have to be willing to spend more money. And yes, I agree with you. That's not going to be too likely to happen unless people actually get a conscience or a moral objection toward using gas guzzlers.
I wanna
Also,
But
agree
there's
with
been
you, but history shows, who's the first one usually to get a bailout when there's a recession? Usually the automotive sector, right?
GM.
Generally, yes.
Yeah,
Government
but not some
motors.
fucking startup.
that only happened in 2008. Let's be clear. I also want to point out because let's say hypothetically, a car is a car owner buys a new car every 7 years, right? That means 1/7 of the addressable market is buying a car every year. So what is the size of the addressable market? What is 1/7 of that size? And then how big is the manufacturing capacity of Lucid compared to their sales projections compared to that 1/7 figure? I'm of the
I got an
opinion the
alternate
1/7 figure is dramatically lower than Lucid's sales projections.
I got an alternate to that. I don't as far as cars lasting their loan term, that's a negative. Speaking from industry standards, there's not a car on the road that makes it through its 7-year term without a major shop issue. And we'll say probably 60% of 7-year car loans, those car loans don't end up paid off with that car in that person's possession. Those car loans end up getting rolled out into another car because that car is already that consumer stranded multiple times within that loan term. So I
Interesting you
usually
say that,
see about
soldier.
3.5 to 4 years of solid vehicle ownership.
Kelly Blue Book on May 24 says the average car on the road being driven is 12.2 years old.
I think his
So
specific experience is with like GM or Chrysler, right, where the manufacturing standard is just a little bit lower. And I hear a lot of those guys, or that industry trend being guys who buy trucks, usually can't afford them, and when their loan is up, they have an outstanding balance that they roll into the next loan to buy the next truck.
It's not even
So
really.
if you look at this,
Here,
if I may, I got a bear thesis on Lucid that I can articulate pretty clearly. If you've ever been to a major automotive company and you've stood at the end of the line, you've witnessed in my opinion, one of the pinnacles of human achievement, and that is Ford sends an F-150 off that line every 53 seconds. They have teams of guys jumping in those trucks, throwing gas in them, driving them into parking spots or directly onto trains. Over here at Honda, I've seen it done in 48 seconds on the Accord. That's their fastest off the line time. So if you have these bespoke electric vehicle makers like Lucid, what the hell? I mean, how are they going to compete with people like Toyota and Ford and Honda that can send a vehicle off the line in less than a minute of every day, 365 if they really wanted to? If demand was there, they could do it. And
they're doing
they're
that
not going
now
to.
in the wake of the chip shortage that happening today, Scald.
But I'm just saying that this is the capacity they have and the capacity they can return to, given other than the issues in the supply chain. So I think we're in an aberrant time where these bespoke automakers like Lucid and Rivian, they can exist only because of the supply chain struggles that have roiled the market. And as these bigger guys really start to get a handle on the EV supply chain, they'll eventually just be flushed out because they just won't be able to keep up with production levels of legacy automakers. I don't know how they're going to scale up. It's going to be a struggle for them to scale up.
And you can make the same argument for Tesla in some regard. If GM and BMW and Honda really get their production capacity to what they have for gas motored vehicles, I think it's a valid thesis. When that happens, though, that's a bigger question at hand.
I think it's valid too, but you also have to think about railway. Like you were talking about railways. Where is Ford positioned to their closest railway? Because Lucid's railway is actually within their property. So I actually am extremely bullish on the fact that they could get cars out. It's just production itself that is lacking. That's the only thing.
The train literally goes into the automotive plants.
Okay.
Like it literally goes into it, bro. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to some of these, but yeah, it's nuts.
I think we've spent enough time on this.
Yeah, we got to go to something else.
I got some plays in the comment section. SB5071 says 382 SPY puts. Leap and Leopard, says ENPH says company beat earnings. Look for pop today. Says solar earnings across the board will shine through the next 2 quarters. The narrative is hiding the growth. Mikey DeJew says Penske, which is ticker PAG, beat earnings this morning, but the rest of the industry is still ripe for a fall. How does this factor into AutoNation plays, group automotive, etc.? Question mark. No contact 7229 says SPY puts it open because Microsoft earnings.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I was going to mention that Penske did beat earnings and revenue. Large portion of their revenue is, of course, the truck rental and truck sales. I'm going to dig into the 10Q this morning. I'm still very bearish on SAH because 27% of the California business and I think 40% used car business, but we're going to have to see on that. I will advise more on my page when I read into the 10Q more for Penske today. They are kind of an outlier. Group 1 that also reported today has a large auto auction. That's making me think more about Carvana's auto auctions that they acquired, but they are different auto auctions entirely. So again, I will report on those later.
I hear you, brother. I'm still surprised SAH is holding up at these levels, considering how the market seems to be turning.
So to whoever was in the end phase play and talking about solar, what do you consider to be the most lucrative path regarding investing in that form of energy?
I think that the end phase play was someone down in the comments who's not a speaker. So I don't know if they're able to talk about what their actual thesis is on solar. Long term, I'm bullish on nuclear power, but again, it takes such a long time to spin up reactors that people trying to make uranium plays. I've been invested in uranium since 2014. Still waiting for nuclear plants to be built.
So you've done only 1/3 of its half-life. Is that right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Got a little bit more to go. In terms of Enphase, they did report earnings this morning, and they already popped on those earnings. So I'm curious, Leap and Leopard, if you could please answer in the comments or raise your hand. What's the play? Because
just
one of
invited.
your peers has already. Oh, there you are.
He's invited up.
Hey guys. Hey, so Enphase. So I'm not used to all these calls and stuff. I made a lot of money investing in solar and Tesla, and so I'm trying to learn about all these calls and puts to protect my investments. But solar and wind is absolutely killing everything else. It's the only thing in the queue in grid additions across the planet. It's all solar and wind. Nuclear is not going to come close. Fossil fuels are not going to make it on the grid. They're absolutely exploding. I don't know how any other way to put it, but yeah, there's no.
So what is the next play? Suppose I have $10,000 to commit. Where is it going?
Well, for me, because I don't know what you guys do and how you do it, and I'm trying to learn it, I would go with like TAN, Solar Edge, Enphase, and go long. Maybe Leaps, if I had to guess.
I would sell cash covered puts and hope that you get assigned if you're
Maybe
that bullish, and then just
short
start wheeling
nuclear.
it.
I don't know. I don't understand why nuclear is going up. If it's because Russia is going to lose some business and somebody else is going to make it,
Well, the short answer on the nuclear thesis is that the former warheads that used to be sold by Russia to the nuclear power generation community are no longer for sale because of sanctions. And because these companies need to acquire more refined uranium for their plants, they are now forced to go to mines to get uranium ore for refinement.
If it's for bombs,
the
I
main
don't
thesis.
understand that business.
It's not for bombs. It's to take the bomb material from Russian nuclear warheads that are being decommissioned to turn them into fuel rods for power generation.
Yes.
That used to be the original source of nuclear fuel, according to some treaty between the U.S. and Russia. That no longer exists.
Nuclear is diminishing. So, like everyone says, like China's going to build 150 nuclear plants. Every time China comes out with a plan, they're showing more and more wind and solar, and they're backing off on nuclear. And now that's changing.
I understand.
Fast. Yeah, because that's changing fast. Because people don't realize how fast the cost to solar and wind are declining. And how
I'm not trying to say solar or wind is declining. I'm simply stating what the current thesis is for nuclear. So for those listening, they can make an informed decision.
No, I appreciate that. 'Cause I don't understand the bull case for nuclear either. But if it's energy, I don't see it.
In terms of plays, any thoughts on Northland Power? Since that's solar and PI.
I just want to say one quick thing. That Solar Edge, by the way, that he was mentioning earlier is ticker SEDG, and the Enphase Energy Inc. is ENPH. Sorry for interrupting.
Yes, while we're interrupting, I want to take the opportunity to thank Mr. Hardy for making me some money when the CPI reports came out. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
So again, Leaping Leopard, back to your play. It's long dated calls like leaps on ENPH. That's your play?
Yeah, well, my plan is I'm bag holding a lot of stuff to get out of it in this next wave of upswing and wait till these rates hit later next year, and then I'll be going long probably just all solar, because solar is going to be the #1 industry growing. It's going to have the most growth in front of it. So I'm just going to focus in that industry for anything.
Does anyone know the operating margin for Enphase or other similar solar companies? Like, how profitable are these companies?
The earnings report did pretty well. They're making really good profits, and they're growing. They're doubling year after year.
Do you have margins, percentages, operating margin, net margin?
Yeah, no.
So trailing 12 months for Enphase. Let's see.
I got 41%. Gross margins 41%. Net income margin 14%. Previous year was about 17.
So I'm
What's
showing
the
gross
average?
margin 700 over 17. Yeah, 41% for gross margin on Enphase. So basically, for every $17 of stuff they sell, it costs them $10 to make. So solid margins for this kind of business.
In their
Yeah,
earnings call, their
this-
plan is to combine their solar with a battery with an app from your phone, so you can control your heat pump, your EV charging, your battery, your solar, all from an app. That's their vision going forward.
I think you've shilled Enphase enough, Leap and Leopard. Generally, we
Okay.
try to. No. There's nothing wrong with liking a company, but the main purpose of these types of talks, in my opinion, is to introduce those who can't come up with their own plays with potential places to gamble their money away.
Right.
I'll put some bull case notes in the comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to put out a correction on Hardy. Sorry, but just for the quick nuclear thing, 5 seconds. It's not decommissioning of missiles. That was a 2008 thing. Right now, it's a work through of excess nuclear supply from Fukushima shutdowns and the Japanese market selling out of what they've had, turning into restart supply. Just to inform people about that.
All right, thank you for pointing that out. Do you happen to know how long the runway is in terms of supply?
In terms of working through what remains of the Japanese supply, is that your question?
Yes, because that's the current source of fuel rods, right?
So right now, that's been a source. Japan's restarting their fleet. They already have 9 online and are scheduling to bring more on. So that shouldn't be as available as it's been. It's also been running through since 2011. The unfortunate answer is no one really knows how much is out there because it's a very opaque market. Countries don't want to say like, hey, here's how much nuclear fuel is sitting around for national security reasons. So it's not the easiest thing to actually count how much Japanese supply is being sold versus being held onto for restarts. The best I can give is that within the open selling spot market, the general consensus from buyers has been utilities are going to have to start actually buying supply, and they can't just rely on Japanese supply coming out within the next year or two.
Is that the play for the Japanese yen to rise?
That's not connected to yen in any way. This is just purely about fuel and what's available to purchase for immediate use versus long-term purchasing the rock that takes 2 years to turn into fuel.
So the Japanese don't benefit on that at all?
It's not something I haven't looked into it from that point. I just look into it as far as fuel supply availability and when utilities are going to have to start making a shift to actually purchasing from mines versus just purchasing out in the open market of what's available and being sold out.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I want to give some plays and just like switch over to something else for people. So TBT puts expiring early November with a $35 strike, and TLT calls at the $100 strike, also expiring early November.
The gentleman who is pushing solar on a different topic, but still in the energy sector, you had also mentioned wind. I'm not aware of any wind energy companies. Could you enlighten me?
Yeah, you have Siemens Gamesa, which is a European German company who basically manufactures the physical equipment for wind farms. But then you have the operators such as utilities. I think one of the top is a Spanish one called Iberdrola, IBE. I'm sure it's trading also in the US, but you can buy it in euros in Spain. This company basically transitioned. It was one of the first, like a decade ago, transitioning to renewable energies in Europe, and I think it's one of the top, and very strong in the UK as well. Very strong in the this wind thing farms, you know.
What about Wave?
Also have Viva Systems, I believe.
Waves, I'm not sure if that's a like there is a. It's not that efficient. I think they were still, you know, kind of coming up with new projects, R&Ds, and this and that. I know of one trading in Sweden, which is called Minesto, Minesto. They had like an innovative solution for waves, but I haven't heard like wave thing being like a big thing, you know.
People were asking for tickers on wind. GE and Mitsubishi are two of the biggest suppliers of parts after Siemens. So you could look at them too. Mitsubishi is MSBHF, and GE is, you know, just GE.
GE missed earnings earlier this week.
I mean,
is
what's
solar
new?
is solar cyclical in the sense that during the winter months where there isn't as much sunlight, they maybe don't generate as much income? Is it, or is it just
Well,
sort of a
solar
year-round thing?
companies are the manufacturer of cells and inverters, not so much the production of energy, at least not yet.
But the amount of energy that is emitted during a quarter will definitely impact their profitability numbers, revenue, etc.
Why? It doesn't slow down installations.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Hardy. Who's going to go into SPY 0 DTE calls with me? I'm just going to pick up a few. You know, just looks like SPY's been dragged down by Google and Microsoft reporting bad forward guidance, and you know, SPY's pretty weighted that direction. So, who thinks we're going to have a reversal and continue a little bit of the irrational bull run we've been on? Who wants to take that bet?
I like the play Scald. What kind of strikes you looking at?
You know, I haven't. I'm looking at. I was looking at 389, but then I decided that's way too degenerate. So now I'm looking at something a little closer to current price.
Why don't you go to the roulette table and put it on black?
I'm thinking
well,
of $2.
Those are WallStreetBets, buddy. I mean, I'm just here to gamble a little bit.
I'm thinking $2 from the high open.
Sir, this is a casino.
So with SQQQ potentially on the way up, I'm looking to sell, let's see, maybe $48 $48 puts. Harvest the premium that way.
Someone How mentioned do we think Apple is going to do on earnings?
I think it would be a big exception if Apple was to surprise the markets and you know, push for continuation of, if we can call it, a rally, because Apple is weighing so much in the S&P. I'm still short on Apple. I'm waiting for some, you know, news that might disappoint the market, because, you know, every single company is suffering the inflation cost, supply chain, and demand issues forecast. I don't think Apple will survive this issue, so they have to come up now with some negative outlook, and I'm betting really like on that scenario, and I'm still short on all the indexes, S&P, Europe, because I think the U-turn will be Apple. That's my bet.
I also think
and my hope.
Apple has so much exposure to international markets that the foreign currency exchange is going to, like, even if they have solid earnings, the FX exchange is going to completely fuck their margins. That's my opinion.
Well, when the US dollar's the strongest, that would actually, yeah, that would have hurt them a lot. Oh, I had that backwards for a second.
It's hurting a lot of companies on their earnings. That's why I'm with that on Apple puts today as well. Getting myself some Apple puts for my birthday today. I'm real excited. Let's see if this pays out as a gift to myself or kicks me in the ass, which would go along with the life theme. But I'm thinking that Apple just is gonna miss. Their price is a growth company, and I think that their growth is slowing to a point. I mean, they're already making cuts they're making cuts due to lack of demand of their flagship product. And I think they're just going to be repriced after this earnings. So, and I think the market goes with them too.
Like the FX conversions ate into Microsoft's earnings between like 10 to 30%. It was unheard of. So I think that is going to repeat itself with Apple, probably even more.
I hope you guys are right, because I took a November short position on Apple. Currently down.
How did you open that short position? Is it puts?
I bought an expensive at the money put, 140, and I sold some calls at like 150, 155 vertical. So I'm not looking good on both at the moment, but they're out till November, so I have time at least.
When's Apple reporting?
Is it tomorrow, maybe? If I'm not wrong.
Tomorrow before the bell.
I have a suspicion that iPhone 14 sales are probably worse than expected, even after the drawdown in manufacturing orders. If anyone works at a cell phone store, could please confirm. So, for those who are looking to make a degenerate play, I'd probably look at Apple minus 30 delta puts buy at 3 p.m. or after 3 p.m. today.
I like it.
I follow that.
Strike? Sorry, what's strike?
So, assuming the price is currently 152, because market hasn't opened yet, the 30 delta or the minus 30 delta would be a strike of 147. However, if the price continues to go down, that minus 30 delta put strike will go down with the price. So you need to see which strike for the October 28 expiration has a delta of minus 3, and that's where I would buy. Does that make sense?
So you mean October 28th, right? Not October 20th.
Correct. October 28th expiration.
I'd run the same play, but I'd probably go negative 50, negative 60. I'm just, not as risk averse, or I'm less risky on that, but I'd still follow on Apple put.
So that's an in the money put.
Yep, in the money, 100%.
Okay.
I think there's some pretty heavy OI at the 140 level. I have to go back and check that, but remember I checked recently and there was heavy OI, and that's on the November monthlies.
Even for Friday, that's 37,000 open interest.
Okay, so comments are saying it was someone bought the last iPhone 14 in the store. So
Very anecdotal.
I agree. I'm hoping to capture more data points before market close today.
I just can't imagine Apple really saving the entire economy, but if people want to believe that, I'm not going to stop them.
I mean, it's always out of stock, the 14 Pro. Always out of stock.
Now, is that a supply chain issue or a demand issue? That's what you got to ask yourself when you walk in the store.
That could also just be Apple intentionally delaying supply to shock demand.
So the number of iPhone 14 listings on eBay comes out to around 17,000, it looks like. So I don't know if this is a I don't know what it was like at the previous iPhone launches to really make a comparison. But I figure when iPhone 15 or the iPhone 14s, whatever the next version comes out as, it'll be a good proxy for available supply. The number of eBay listings.
And do those eBay listings come in at retail or above retail? Because that really kind of can give me an indication if they're really trying to gouge the market.
At or above, but I don't use the offering price is not what I go by. I go by the sold price.
Fair enough.
I'll tap in real quick if you don't mind on the cell phone tip. I do own 3 cell phone stores. I've been in business for 20 years. Currently, like just to touch base on the eBay thing, people just
you're
want
the Moasis guy.
Yes, sir. So people just want to buy people just want to hustle. So they're buying the phone to try to make $1 on eBay. But in the reality of it is they are actually on back order. My stores are on a list and we should get them in the middle of November. And like I said, I've been in business for 20 years and I've been one of the only iPhone dealers in my little local town. So that's all I got to say, fellas. Thanks.
What's the demand for the 14? Do you also have a wait list of paying
I
customers?
do have a personal wait list in my town. I've been known for having iPhones all the way back to the 3. So I have 15 people waiting. So
How does that compare to in the other iPhone? Like in the past, is the hype similar or greater?
The hype is the same. It's just a standard. Oh, I need the newest iPhone.
Okay, so
How much would you say it's people trying to resell on eBay versus people that actually want the phone?
I think the majority of the people on eBay are just trying to make $1, especially in this economy.
Can you tell us your actual volume of sales compared to the 13 and 13 Pro?
Well, I haven't had the 14 at all, so I'm waiting. It was launched, but they had very minimal. And because I only own 3 stores compared to these big dogs out here, them sending it to me, even though I'm the only store I live in the DMV area. So in my area close to DC, I'm the only store that typically has that contract, carries for the brand that I work with. And so again, it basically just boils down to they only have enough and they're going to give it to the big dogs, the guys that have 20 plus stores.
Just
But
do
you
a quick
short?
Google search, Google Trends search. Threw it up in the comments. Looks interesting.
A question to the owner of the stores: would you then short or go long?
I would short.
Short.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
No financial advice.
Of course. Okay, so seems like everyone is betting on a U-turn. This fucking rally, was about to wipe out my fucking portfolio. Was so short on what's going on. The European market rally is purely related with the and that you might think I'm saying stupid things with the weather, because we are a bit late, with the temperatures should be lower than usually it is, because I'm still thinking that winter is going to hit very hard Europe, given the Russia, Ukraine, the whole thing going on.
Yes, thankfully after hours yesterday, Texas Instruments TXN saved my losses in a row, because they really showed what, even though there's 69% of their business is semiconductors, that they really missed on all angles. They had some good earnings, but they really missed on what they're projecting to happen for the next quarter.
There was a report this morning that said that the weather in Europe is supposed to be milder through November. Just FYI.
Isn't Europe also pretty full on their natural gas supply at this point, and they're not
That's
worried about this
also
particular winter?
Well, yeah, natural gas. There's tankers parked all up and down the coast of Europe that have nowhere to deliver natural gas to at the moment. There's full capacity at storage, so that's why natural gas is giving up all of the big gains it had right now. So the boil heads better get out of there.
the report also mentioned that due to milder than expected weather up until now, there's a lot of natural gas that's in inventory.
Yeah, actually, future contracts were negative this week.
It's a new contract. They just started to roll over to a new contract. I don't know if that has anything to do with that, but crude is still bullish. Actually busting out right now. That's why even though natural gas is down, I'm still holding Coterra calls through earnings because I'm still bullish on that company. They've had a couple analysts upgrade their price target, and I think that company's up, I think 58% on the year. They're just killing it, and I think a dividend increase is on the way. As I'm holding shares as well. Earnings on November 4th. That's still in play, I think. And that
Speaking of weather, can I just take a step back and going back to the solar question that was asked earlier, if it was cyclical and if dependent on the weather? Just my question would be, if the weather, like if the winter affects the efficiency of the solar panels, then maybe I might choose not to install and not to buy panels in October, November, and just wait until March. So that would kind of make it cyclical in a way. And if not, I would just like to hear your thoughts on it.
Like, I don't know if it is cyclical. It's a genuine question, but
No.
if your solar doesn't work in as well as it does in the winter months, why would you install it right before winter starts?
No,
Because big tax breaks before
Yeah.
the year ends.
You would install it when you can get it. If you try to get it now, like in Europe, you might have to wait 8 months. Because of the line.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and like here, we're gonna get a huge rebate next year. This 30% federal tax rebate is gonna be extended. And utilities and states are gonna get all kinds of rebates for solar, for heat pumps next year. It's gonna explode next year. So it follows the rebate cycle a little bit. But yeah, it's not dependent on much.
All right, cool, thanks.
And to add some tickers, you have also this Chinese company that is top on manufacturing, solar photovoltaics panels. It's Jinko Solar, JKS. I know no one wants to touch Chinese stocks, but just in case. And then wind farm, there was another European top Sweden company called Vattenfalls. That's basically the largest onshore wind farm.
Yeah, another Chinese company, CATL, sells batteries to Tesla. So they're probably kicking Tesla's butt with batteries. But if you want to touch China, CATL is a ticker to watch.
It's trading in the US?
I don't think so, but it's huge in China, and Tesla's buying batteries from them.
Okay.
Can I say something real quick about that Jinko Solar? I was looking into it a few months ago because Biden had signed this emergency importation for solar panels into America, and Jinko Solar panels were coming over, and they had the ships actually turn around in the middle of the Atlantic because they're built by slave labor in America. Custom laws made them turn around, so I wouldn't go with Jinko Solar. And another point I was going to make, super early here on the West Coast, sorry. I'm invested in a company called FLNG, Flex Liquid Natural Gas. They're a shipping company for natural gas, for bringing natural gas from America over to Europe. And I've been invested with them for a little while before that whole Nord 1 pipeline burst. And they're doing pretty good. And they aren't exactly tied to the cost of natural gas because they're a shipping company. And I'm kind of worried about a little bit of like nationalization or price control on the actual commodity of natural gas. But I think that the shipping company itself is going to be immune to it. but
Can you
it's
explain why they're down in pre-market?
everything's down pre-market.
Okay, so it's just lowering tide in this case.
Yeah, it's a little bit volatile, but I've been in it for a while, and I think that if you look at it, they kind of have this step up, and Bill Gates is invested in it.
How does the shipping capacity compare to the U.S. ability to produce liquefied natural gas? Because my understanding is the reason why we're not sending more gas to Europe isn't because of shipping capacity. It's because we can't produce enough. We don't have enough compressors, to put a very basic term on it, to produce natural gas, liquefied natural gas.
America's the #1 producer of natural gas, and
Correct. But that's the liquefaction part that I'm talking about.
well,
Party's correct. There's multiple plants that are in the process.
Yeah, there's some coming online in the very near future, some a little bit further out.
Near future and natural gas plant construction implies to me a year or two. This is needed in the next 3 months.
3, minimum 3.
And I believe Freeport is coming back online, so there'll be increased availability for shipping gas, at least on the American coast. There are 3 tankers that are currently en route and will be arriving in the next week or 2.
All right, good to know.
So if you want a company that's producing the LNG that might have some near-term capacity increase, you would want to look at Cheniere. The ticker is LNG. They've have facilities online and are adding to them and have been for quite a while. So I would think within the next 3 to 6 months, they would probably get another terminal on.
Bullish American energy producers. Permian Basin production is also ramping up as well. So you want to look for companies that have assets in those areas. They're going to have probably serious growth in the next quarters.
Got about 10 minutes left, guys. Any last minute plays or discussion?
Did we talk about China? I saw Michael Burry posted something about Chinese company valuations on the Shanghai index, saying that they were at historic lows, almost implying that it was a good buy the dip opportunity.
We touched on it briefly earlier.
Yeah, I was so I guess they were saying it's oversold, so I was potentially looking at going into yin or another Direction ETF for bullish China, but I don't know if that'd be catching a falling knife or not.
What's your opinion on current China valuations, Hardy?
I'm torn because it's unclear how predictable this current regime will be. The expectation is that they will dump a lot of state investment into homegrown chip foundries, and by homegrown I mean take it from Taiwan, which is a Chinese province according to their mindset.
Sorry, I'm a bit ignorant on this. Why the current regime if Xi Jinping was re-elected, why is that
His cabinet.
supposed to be different?
So it's sort of like saying Trump got reelected, but because all his cabinet members are in jail, they got replaced with new people. Same concept with Xi Jinping, in that when he was effectively confirmed as for a third term, a lot of his underlings shifted away from the usual like moderates to more yes men. So whatever Xi Jinping's vision is versus what Hu Jintao may have had, or the support Hu Jintao used to have, may imply more unencumbered extreme moves by China.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Which definitely would be bad for markets.
Burry post is in the comments. It's actually the Hong Kong Hang Seng Index.
Yeah, the chart was showing that this index is back to 1997 levels, though the GDP has increased by, this much, and obviously the
Correct.
company's
GDP is
revenues.
18-fold, and the multiples back then were much higher than they are now. So you could argue that it's substantial inflation on the Chinese side. But how does it compare to the rest of the world? All right. 7 minutes to market open. What other plays do we have?
Is anyone interested in Intel earnings on the 28th, I believe?
Yeah, I'm sitting on a lot of puts.
Who was the person that was talking about the 20-year bonds ETF for TLT? Someone brought up buying calls.
Yeah, somebody earlier was playing TBT and TLT, I believe.
Yeah, $100. Let me double check. $100 strike TLT calls expiring early to mid-November, and $35 put strike on TBT also expiring mid-November.
What's your thesis on that? Just wondering, because I was thinking about entering, but I didn't want to get into that until like maybe later towards the end
There's
of the
two
year.
things. It's firstly a technical thing. I rely a lot on just technical analysis, which people don't believe in it in this sub. But also, I think the Fed is going to pivot to either a 50 or a 75 basis point hike in the next month. That's my opinion.
But a 75 basis point hike wouldn't be a pivot.
Or 75 this month, and then hinting towards a pivot next month.
Away from raising rates?
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's part of the cause of this current rally is that thinking.
I think we're far from that, in my opinion, but
I think rates will be raised, but not as significantly as months prior.
The language probably won't be quite as hawkish, since we are starting to see inflation subside slightly.
we're in a state of stagflation where inflation really isn't going, anywhere, nor up nor down. So, we're kind of chipping away at, 1/10 of a percentage point for the last couple of months. So until we start seeing significant down drops month over month, I can't imagine the Fed in the most remote way saying, yeah, we're going to consider starting to pivot at this point. I don't see that happening until mid 2023 because of the lag effect we're going to see on inflation. So I'm still anticipating 75 basis points, not only for this month, but for the rest of the year going into 2023. And only then can I start, potentially foreseeing this. I mean, I look at the data every day. Core CPI is still at its all-time highs or still encroaching on its all-time highs. Hardy?
We'll find out when Fed fund rate comes out in 2 weeks.
It was in November 1st. Yeah,
next
week. Yeah, I'm definitely playing that, by the way. I'm probably going to pick up puts for just SPY the week of. Weekly, I'm probably running weeklies. I'm anticipating a bit of a drop around 230 of the day of the release of the Fed funds rate.
Isn't the release at 2 o'clock?
Is it 2 or 2:30? I keep getting my dates mixed up. It is 2. Sorry, you're right. It is 2. So around 1:30. My apologies. Around 1:30, I'll pick up my puts, and I'll probably be playing them quite heavily because the CPI print also made me a good chunk of change. So I can't imagine that the CPI print that we had when we missed for a third time in a row. I'm also curious as to where they're going to put their forecasts, because if they're going to put again 8.1%, I feel like people are starting to lose even more faith into the Federal Reserve and how they're handling this entire situation.
So, for those who are unaware, The recommendation I'm putting out is to buy November 2 puts on SPY at a roughly 40 delta or minus 40 delta at 1 p.m. Eastern, because there's a possibility, however unlikely it can still happen, that the markets will be halted prior to the announcement. So you want to get in before the halt if there is one.
That's on November 2nd, correct? Right, Hardy?
Correct.
Correct. There also is some discussion on the first, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure what's in the schedule for the Fed, but there is going to be some meetings. Not sure if that has any effect on the market, but the second is the big day, 2:00.
Sammy probably is for rate hikes in the comments, guys, if you want to check that out.
Nice. Got about 2 minutes left. Hardy, are you going to follow up the pre-market with your own little chat today?
Yes, so I do have a chat going up after pre-market. I try not to shill it too hard. If you have questions and options, I'm happy to answer them there.
Yep, I'll probably be pitching in a bit.
Excellent. We got about a minute and a half. Any last minute plays?
Well, just a little side note for the plays. Last Friday, the spread between the 2 and 10 year was about 2.8% or 2.8 points, basically. Now it's 0.4, so it's widening. I do watch that to see which direction the market goes. Last Friday, when it shrunk to 2.28, it actually was another reason the market jumped. So I think we'll be a little more red today, obviously.
Understood. Anybody else?
I do have a question quick. I'm sure you guys already covered this morning. But in terms of calls, I was looking at buying calls on Google, and I'm just kind of on the edge, just because, I mean, a lot of the break evens are at 104. And I mean, it's been hovering around like 104 like the past week. But like the last time Google was at like a real high was back in August. It was at like 122. And so I'm just wondering, I mean, is anyone going for Google for calls?
Not at the moment. Anybody looking at the yields, check out the 3-month to 10-year. It's currently inverted.
All right, that's the market, everybody. Thank you all for joining. Try not to lose too much money, and we will see you.
Thanks everyone for tuning into the stream, and like Hardy said, we'll see you all tomorrow. Try not to lose too much money, and thanks so much for subscribing and following on Twitch.